Okay, welcome back to Gary's Economics. Today we are going to talk about money. Okay, I've wanted to do this video about money for a while now, and we will probably do some more videos about money because it's a big subject area. But the main reason that I came to do this video today is that the other day I read an article which was talking about why are rents up so much in London and other big cities. And this was an article in the Financial Times. There's a link to it on my Twitter if you want to look at it. And basically, in this article, it spoke entirely about issues regarding the supply and demand for apartments. And that seems like it makes total sense, right? You want to understand why apartment rents have gone up. So you look at the supply and demand for apartments. But I want to give you a thought experiment to help you maybe understand why, to me, I think this is strange. Now, imagine the price of apples went up relative to oranges. So an apple used to cost the same as an orange, and now an apple costs twice as much as an orange. And at the same time, there's been a massive increase in the supply of oranges. There's been like a massive bumper orange harvest. And then now an apple costs 2 times an orange as opposed to 1. You would say, well, this is probably because we've got so many oranges now. And if at the same time, everything, the price was going up in terms of oranges, you would say, well, this makes sense because we've got so many more oranges now, right? This would be totally sensible. Now, imagine we replace that example. We take out oranges and replace it with money. Imagine suddenly the price of an apple in terms of money doubled. And just before that, there'd been suddenly loads and loads more money. Everybody had more money. Would you say this is because everybody's got more money, or would you look specifically at something that was to do with apples? Now imagine at the same time the price of everything has gone up relative to money. Would you say this is probably because of the increase in the amount of money everyone has? Or would you say, well, let's look at every specific thing and try and find out what's going on in that specific thing? Now, I think it would be sensible if there was suddenly a massive increase in the average amount of cash holdings in a country, and then the prices of everything went up suddenly, to say this is probably because such a huge amount of money was given out. But this has happened in the last 3 years. The government's given out £600 billion, which is £13,000 per person. So we know that at least some people must have hugely more money. And yet the Financial Times runs a story saying, why have London rents gone up? And it doesn't mention even once that an enormous amount of money has been given out. To me, I think this is so interesting, and it shows that there's kind of a blind spot in the minds of a lot of people and a lot of economists regarding the fact that, you know, money is a thing and the value of money can go up and down. And if we suddenly give out a huge amount of money, then the value of money will go down, which will mean the price of everything goes up. And you know, people who watch this channel regularly will know I was a money trader for a long time, and I was a very successful money trader. I was a money trader full-time for 6 years. And when you're a money trader, all you do all day is you look at the different kinds of money. You know, there's lots of different kinds of money in the world: British pounds, US dollars, Australian dollars, euros. And you try and work out which monies are going to become more valuable and which monies are going to become less valuable. So a huge part of the job is understanding that the value of money goes up and down. And if you do that for a long time, you start to realize that actually money is one of the most volatile asset classes that exist. The value can fall very quickly. And one of the reasons for that is there are some big institutions like central banks, Bank of England, European Central Bank, Federal Reserve in the US, and governments that have the power to give out huge amounts of money very quickly, which mean that people suddenly have hugely more money than they used to have. And when that happens, you would expect the value of money to fall. But I think people have a difficulty conceptualizing an idea of the value of money falling, because people use money to value other things. You know, how can the value of a pound fall? A pound is always a pound. But in reality, if a huge amount of money is given out, then the value of a pound can fall. And the way that we see that is that the price of everything at the same time will go up, which is exactly what's happening now. But what has happened in the last few years is during COVID, a huge amount of money was given out. The price of everything went up. And rather than say this is probably because of a fall in the value of money, people say, well, rents in London went up because of issues in the London rental market, and wages are going up because of specific issues in the labour market, and house prices are going up because of specific issues in the housing market, and food prices are going up because of specific issues in the food market, and every single individual thing is blamed on specific issues in that area. And this is super interesting to me, and I'm not denying that there are areas in which there are supply problems. So the most obvious case is energy in Europe. There's been a reduction in the energy coming from Russia into Europe, so that's causing energy to go up. But it's not just energy prices going up here, London rents are going through the roof, and this is not because of Vladimir Putin or because of the war in Ukraine, obviously. But for me, the biggest problem that happens when you are blind to ideas such as when money is given out, it depresses the value of money, is it also leads you to be blind to other questions like, where did that money go? And anyone who watches this channel will know that I've been going on about this from the beginning of COVID, which is during COVID, a huge amount of money, hundreds of billions of pounds, trillions of US dollars, went from governments to the rich. And the obvious consequence of that is that the rich get richer, ordinary people get poorer, inequality increases, and ordinary people find it harder to live because you as an ordinary person are competing with the rich for limited resources. If they've got way more money, they will get more and you will get less. And what that has meant is, because we don't look at money when these changes happen, generally we haven't realized, and it's been very underreported in the media, that in the last 3 years we've seen massive, massive increases in the wealth of the rich and the super rich. In pretty much every country in the world, it's been the fastest ever increase in rich and super rich wealth. And that's happened in the UK, it's happened in the US, it's happened in Europe. And what that has meant has been that when we've had this inflationary crisis after COVID, because the media has not generally reported what an enormous increase in wealth there has been from the super rich, it has meant we have not discussed taxation of the super rich. Now, the amount of money that has gone from the government to the super rich and the rich in this country has so far since COVID been £600 billion. If we were to tax that back and just make the rich as they were before COVID, we could give every single adult in this country £13,000 and this crisis would be over. But because we don't talk about this massive accumulation of cash by the rich, we don't talk about the fact that we could get that money back. And it also means that the way we resolve the crisis now, in Liz Truss's energy bill recently announced, we are going to give more cash to the rich, which will likely make this problem worse. So yeah, basically, I think it's really important that we understand that when money is given out, we question who it goes to. We understand that if that money goes to the rich, it will make ordinary families poorer. And the ordinary families will see that through inflation, which can also be seen as a reduction in the value of money, which includes a reduction in the value of your wages. If we're not aware to that, then we allow ourselves to get into situations where crises are managed in such a way that the rich get much, much, much richer, ordinary people get much, much, much poorer, and nobody really notices it and nobody talks about it in the media. So yeah, money is important. The rich have made a ton of it. If we tax them back, we can make your life better. And if we don't, unfortunately, everybody's life is going to get worse. Except for the super rich, who are richer than they've ever been before. Thank you very much. Like and subscribe. At the moment, these guys are profiting from a crisis that is going to keep our economy in the stump for 50 years. There is one other thing they can do with that massive amount of income. They can buy your mum's house.